Coming up, Tyler versus RENMEN.
The conclusion of day 2 is almost upon us as we have one final best of 5. Tyler from Vietnam up against RENMEN from Russia. It could be considered by many to be a clash between two European titans.
It's true.
However, Tyler has recently moved to the Asia Pacific region and could be the second player from APAC to move on.
Yeah, both these players have a lot to represent in terms of their regions and sort of adopted regions, the case may be.
That's right. And in the meantime, Europe has no player in the top 8 guarantee. This could be the longest drought we've seen to go to the top 8. We'll have to verify and fact check. But it's going to be...
Since last event where they had
well,
3.
I mean, since 2017 when we had this exact format. Let's go ahead and meet our players, shall we? The first from Vietnam, recently moving to Asia Pacific. Please welcome to the stage from Complexity Gaming, Tyler.
Is a popular streamer and ladder grinder, wants to shake out that moniker and become a world championship competitor.
And his opponent from Russia, please welcome the stunning RENMEN.
Looking to follow in the footsteps of countrymen Pavel and Stanadachi and represent Russia on the world stage.
We've always had Eastern Europeans be very strong regions, especially just CIS. You know, we had Pavel be able to put Russia on the map, but even dating back to Neria and Kolento from the Ukraine, constantly putting most of like the rest of Europe on notice, because a lot of them considered to be the strongest part of Europe specifically. And I think it's appropriate that RENMEN can once again remind us about how great they are. Yeah,
the Russian-speaking community in Hearthstone has been extremely strong since the inception of the game. And you know, we see lots of popular streamers and content creators nowadays who are streaming in Russian, and you know, lots of players who believe that is the strongest region of Europe.
That's right. So let's take a look at the lineup head-to-head. As RENMEN, he does have a little bit of an unusual lineup, still playing that hybrid Malaghost, Togwaggle, Mill, Fatigue, Combo Druid, whatever you want to say, and Cube Warlock. And some people may say that's a little bit shady, but I would say that I think it's worked out really well, considering that now Tyler in the head-to-head isn't disfavored, or unfavored rather, because he's playing a slower lineup.
Yeah, RENMEN was really... felt he was going to struggle to get through his first-round matchup against the aggressive decks from Tincho. No, it wasn't Tincho. Sorry, it was Island Cat. Tyler defeated Tincho in their first group round. But when he was able to do so, I feel like he's in actually a very good position to take down Tyler, because Tyler has that more sort of anti-control lineup of his own, but it's a bit less so than RENMEN's. RENMEN's kind of goes over the top with the Togwaggle Druid.
That's right. And so we're going to start things off with the Druid head-to-head. And I think having that extra package will give him a slight advantage in this matchup, because he does have alternate win conditions in the event where both players are relatively even. Let's say they tie in resources, neither player can win the board or burst each other down. And it's more difficult to burst, especially another Druid, right? Historically, we've seen this from time to time. The #1 class in Hearthstone often has the best tools against itself, but not necessarily in this case, because Druid has so much armor gain.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that the Togwaggle package is relatively powerful in this sort of matchup specifically, is because you can gain a ton of armor, whether it's from Ferocious Howl, whether it's from Branching Paths or Malfurion the Pestilent, and you can kind of be out of range of that Malaghost burst, and with naturalizes and other answers to the actual Malaghost itself, that can leave you in a rough spot. But with the Togwaggle sort of backup plan, specifically in this kind of matchup, you can leave your opponent stranded if you're able to churn through your deck.
Yeah, so I think all things considering, if they go even in terms of resources, like they both match each other's ramps, they both gain the same amount of cards and armor and board positioning, then RENMEN should hypothetically be in a better spot. But I mean, we'll see how things go, because whenever you include Azalina Soul Thief and King Togwall, there are definitely some shenanigans when you factor in things like Naturalize and Hand Size and then Ultimate Infestation.
Yeah, this could be a very interesting matchup in terms of trying to manage a variety of different resources. We talked about armor in terms of surviving Malaghost burst, but as you just said, Hand Size alone can be a big issue, because if you burn a key card, as we've seen happen throughout this event and other matchups, that can be very problematic for either player.
One thing to note too is that Tyler is playing the slightly greedier package, including the Faceless Manipulator, that ended up helping him significantly against Tinsho when he had to Faceless Manipulator the Doomguard to stabilize, and that creates such a big board swing that locked Tinsho out of the game compared to having a little bit more anti-aggro tools, for example. So I like that Tyler included that, and who knows, that might end up giving him the edge. We've seen Druids not rely on Malagos, but let's say they play Twig of the Willow Tree and then Lich King and Faceless Manipulator, and then they can like ride the tempo and the powerful tools off the Death Knight cards for victory.
RENMEN here was debating between Ferocious Howl or the Mind Control deck, decides eventually to go with the Howl, and I think this is an important decision because it can help dig toward, well, I was going to say exactly Nourish, because he does need to ramp his mana up to get to that Ultimate Infestation.
Yeah, Ultimate Infestation, specifically for RENMEN, is much more powerful compared to Tyler because you want to actually deck out with King Togwaggle, so that when you flip the decks, it's not necessarily as bad.
Yeah, I was just going to explain the way that the combination works with King Togwaggle and Azalina Soul Thief. The sort of goal of that package in the deck is to essentially run your entire deck out, switch hands with your opponent with King Togwaggle. You can either naturalize something to make their hand full so they don't get the ransom, or use Azalina Soul Thief to swap hands with them so you have a copy of the ransom as well. So you can swap decks back with them if they swap with you. So that means that they're just in fatigue and taking fatigue damage and totally out of resources.
Here's an interesting thought, too, for Tyler. His hand has 2 Ultimate Infestations, and he kind of needs to get out resources. So one way he can is actually to play a Starfall right now to dump his hand a little bit, but that's still so many turns away before he gets to that point.
He'll just Tempo Tyrant, yeah. Just going to play a 4/4 for 5.
Yeah, I think just considering his hand size and how he's going to play the next future turns, he needs some ramp to shape things up, but you know, I think RENMEN feels really comfortable right now, given that he has his Nourish and he has 3 mana crystals above Tyler as of this moment.
And Tyler does still have his coin, so you know, if he does find a little bit more ramp, he can try to keep up a little bit. He could also just coin out Malfurion here if he chooses, but without any additional ramp, that means he's just that much further from Ultimate Infestation, and that is one of the very, very key cards.
Yep. Man, tough spot for Tyler too, because a lot of these cards, like Starfall and Spreading Plague, are pretty low impact in this matchup, just because there's not a ton of minion threats unless your opponent plays Spreading Plague, and just because of how much mana they cost, it's very clunky to get out. I mean, just look at what RENMEN's doing. He's dumping his hand. Spreading Plague for a single 1/5.
And the reasoning for this is he wants to have room with Ultimate Infestation. He didn't have to play these. He could have just played one of these and still had room. But you know, here he's also sort of compensating for his mana usage after the Ultimate Infestation as well. All right, Malfurion comes down for Tyler. So that is, you know, powerful against the damage plan of the Malagos side of the Malagos Togwaggle deck. It is not as powerful against the Togwaggle plan. And there's some of the key combination of cards in RENMEN's hand right now. We see that he has Azalina and Dream Petal and Malagos, so lots of opportunities to land on key combo pieces with that Dream Petal Florist.
When this deck was first taking off in popularity, about a month and a half ago when playoffs were in the swing of things, we saw Europe playoffs probably were the most predominant of this Malagos Togwaggle deck. This ended up becoming a situation where you didn't want a Dream Petal Florist with Azalina in the hand to guarantee hit it, because then your opponent can Azalina, get a free one, and then just infinite chain naturalize to get ahead in fatigue. That's not the case. Most Malagos decks have just completely stopped playing Azalina altogether. So now RENMEN has that opportunity to play Dream Petal Florist, and if it hits his Azalina, not that big of a deal.
Now I'm trying to figure out what exactly RENMEN is doing there with he just cast Moonfire at the face.
Oh, you're right. Actually, I wasn't paying attention. I was looking at you while I was explaining that. I'm coming back to this. I'm like, what is the reasoning for that play, especially with Malagos already in your hand? Was he trying to just like convince Tyler that he has another Ultimate Infestation? Oh, wow. This also has some potential to backfire because he knows his opponent has Faceless Manipulator.
Faceless into swipe? He can Faceless the Malagos, swipe the Malagos, attack and kill the Malagos.
Oh, does he have enough mana though?
Yeah, no, the swipe will kill it. He used the 2 minions, the 2 scarabs.
And then
Oh, no, he doesn't have enough.
here.
No, he's
Yeah.
just short. Oh, you're right. He's a mana short. Can't punch it.
Yeah, he held this coin for a long time and unable to kill it. Wow.
Okay, well.
That was a very fast play from RENMEN to play the Malagos, and if he accounted for every possibility, he's like, well, yeah, he already used a Spellstone, so I feel very confident that I can get this let my opponent copy my Malagos.
Yeah. All right, well.
And, oh, so he got Malagos out of the hand because he had King Togwaggle and he had Azalina Soul Thief, so he can guarantee the Dream Petal Florist on one of them, which is the most important part.
Sure. I'm still just wondering what the Moonfire to face was. Playing the Malagos was less scary to me, or less like strange to me, given the combination that you're mentioning he does have, than the fact that he just Moonfired the face for 1.
Yeah, the Malagos makes sense because RENMEN wants to simplify the game by trading resources. Like, you start using your swipes and whatnot to remove, then you're not bursting me down. I'm not nearly as afraid. So that much makes sense. That is a good point. I don't know what the Moonfire to face was exactly. Perhaps Koro could ask him about it if he ends up winning.
All right, well, he will naturalize that Malagos, but Tyler still has his own Malagos. Did he have a hand that might have been might have overdrawn him if he got naturalized? That might have been it. I don't remember exactly the hand size he had.
That could be it too.
Yeah.
But I also thought he already had Togwaggle at that point, and when you have Azalina and King Togwaggle with the Dream Petal Florist, isn't that pretty much the only things you need?
I don't know that he had Togwaggle yet. I have to go back and look, but we were sort of having a conversation. I looked over, he Moonfired face, like, what's going on? But anyway, back to what's actually happening in this game. There is still a Malagos on the board for RENMEN here. And Tyler now actually kind of in an awkward position that he can't quite use the infestations because of the naturalize that picked him up some cards. He is in the risk of getting himself milled.
Well, the nice thing is his opponent used one naturalized, and his opponent used Malagos. So by him playing his own tempo Malagos, that might go unanswered. There's not many responses to Malagos from Druid, and naturalized is the best. RENMEN would have to pair a lot of removal. Seems like Tyler instead gonna let RENMEN keep his Malagos on the board. And that is a brave call, but there's not much to really threaten Tyler outside that Spellstone right now.
This is the longest I've seen Malagos just like stay in play in almost any game that didn't just immediately have someone get killed.
Right, and I guess that makes sense because most of the time when we play ladder and we're in this scenario, we still think the other person's a Malagos Druid. We don't really know too much guaranteed if it's Togwaggle.
There is swipe, found it.
Oh boy.
That board for Tyler is gone. There is still 2 copies of Ultimate Station in hand, so he can kill one of these, but there is the risk of, again, the combo of Togwaggle plus Dream Petal Florist.
Right.
Or rather, Togwaggle plus the Azalina with that Dream Petal Florist.
Yeah, but it's really big that Tyler was able to get this Ultimate Station off. So in hindsight, one of the things we were talking about and came to play was that hand space.
Well, speaking of hand size, Tyler here, he's going down to 8 cards in hand. If RENMEN were to simply Togwaggle naturalize, or to naturalize Togwaggle, he could end up burning the ransom. Though, to be fair, he still has 6 cards left. Some of them are valuable, and he does not have... he knows that Tyler also just has a handful of gas, so he might end up being too far from fatigue in that sort of situation. The floop is actually a little bit awkward to draw here, because if the discount hits the floop, it ends up going very poorly for RENMEN, because the discount A doesn't stick on floop.
Oh!
Yeah. Oof, that was an awkward hit for RENMEN there, and now things are maybe looking like they... could come together better for Tyler here.
Right. There's definitely an awkward situation too where that one Scarab is just in the way, and Tyler would love to combo like his double Malagos right now, but it does take some of his resources in order to deal with this Dream Petal Florist.
There's also the scary thing about Tyler not just playing around Togwaggle itself, but Togwaggle and Azalina.
Right.
Because if he has a really powerful hand of his own, if then RENMEN gets the combo off, which he's got to be afraid of because of that Florist at this point.
That's true.
Then he gives him a hand that could be Malagos plus whatever else.
Yeah, I think that's why he's much more comfortable dumping this hand.
So yeah, he wants the Malagos Moonfire here, and thankfully for him, that Florist, it missed. So that means that there's no opportunity for him to just get that combo now. He does have to replay a Florist.
Yes. I mean, it guarantees it this time, but it stalls it by 1 turn, which could be enough.
Yeah.
And, I mean, also, you have to deal with that Malagos, so you have to naturalize and let your opponent draw deeper into the deck, which offsets the bad feeling of having that deck be completely destroyed once they swap with you. That being said, there are ways around it. So let's say they give you the King's Ransom and then they swap hands with Azalina. You still have 1 turn to play King's Ransom right back and then Nourish to draw the rest of your deck so that they can't effectively do anything. And because Tyler's been able to keep relatively even parity in the fatigue battle with the current deck size, that might constantly be a factor to the point where RENMEN might not be able to answer the threats unless he Azalinas and then has a good hand to respond to it.
And now Tyler has naturalized. And he is in a position where, is RENMEN going to run out of stuff? There's also the threat of the naturalize, giving your opponent naturalize with Azalina. They can, just fire that off as well. So this is kind of an awkward spot for Tyler. He sees that the flooped version comes down, so he has to know that the combo is essentially waiting.
Yes.
And there is the threat of, okay, well, how do I A, play around you swapping decks, and B, how do I play around you taking my hand? What do I want to play out of my hand so that you don't have access to it once you do actually swap?
He just doesn't want his opponent to get Lich King. The Lich King card can be equally devastating. And also his hand's going to be full, so he doesn't even have the King's Ransom.
He's actually going to be in an awkward position because he can get Togwaggled. Now RENMEN can play Togwaggle, which gives him the naturalize, rather Togwaggle into Soul Thief, which gives him the naturalize that's in Tyler's hand.
Yeah.
And he can naturalize the Lich King.
That's right. And he doesn't have the ability to counterplay the King's Ransom by swapping and then drawing the rest of your deck so that you can even out the fatigue battle.
So I suspect we'll see Togwaggle probably Moonfire face again, because you're gonna lose your hand with that Azalina anyway.
Does he actually want to Moonfire the 8/8 because he wants to? No, he's gonna naturalize. But he doesn't know that.
He knows the naturalize.
Exactly.
So yeah, he's gonna go ahead and do that just in case.
In case he needed the hero power, but we know that it's most likely a opportunity.
And does see naturalize there. Now.
Oh, he even keeps the Lich King from the flipping his boot because of the most recent patch that changed that.
So naturalize will send Tyler deeper to fatigue. Well, deeper toward fatigue, not actually in fatigue yet. If you're going to burn a card at this point, Ultimate Infestation's a pretty good one to burn. So now Tyler gets one of his own minions back with the Death Grip. It's a Florist, but he doesn't have a Malagos anymore.
Right. No way to deal with this board. Both players were dumping their Spreading Plague, so he can't stall as easily.
No, but and also the Florist from RENMEN landed on Alexstrasza.
Oh yeah.
So he's a 2-cost Alexstrasza.
That with Branching Paths is just like lethal, because you can just Alex your opponent.
Alexstrasza Branching Paths just punch you for so much damage.
I'm almost out of cards.
Tyler can't play the Florist if he wants his Lich King guard.
Death is eternal.
But he also knows that Branching Paths and Alexstrasza are in the hand.
Well, he doesn't know that Alexstrasza is reduced in cost. That's the thing.
Yeah.
He knows that Florist either hit Alexstrasza or the Flooped Lich King.
I'm out of cards.
Ooh, the naturalize, the last naturalize.
That would have been a nice card.
Yeah.
But the Alexstrasza is the face plus Branching Paths plus Punch and Moonfire. How does that end up?
That looks like it's 13 damage, and then Tyler would be at 18. I mean, I think this is still a great play regardless.
You still end up with a huge board.
Right.
Your opponent has nothing, and they're drawing their last card.
Right. So Branching Paths here buffs everything. Moonfire Hero Power is 4 damage if RENMEN wants to use his own life total. Very ironic, by the way, that the Azalina and the King Togwaggle deck ended up hitting Fatigue before the Malygos Druid.
Well, I mean, we were saying that the threat isn't just the Togwaggle combo itself. The threat is they take your hand and kill you with it. And that's exactly what happened here. You know, Tyler had a very powerful hand he hadn't quite been able to leverage because he was behind RENMEN in mana the entire game. You know, RENMEN fired off those ultimate infestations. Tyler was never able to cast one of his. And now, yeah, this is a ton of damage. Tyler will draw his last card and doesn't really have any way to deal with it.
Right. Death and Decay, not enough. Needed to have something else to remove the threats.
RENMEN's also at 54. Even if they just sit here in Fatigue, they're both Malfurion punching each other. There's no way that Tyler can come back. And he decides to go out in style, UI his own face with no cards in his deck, and RENMEN will take the lead 1-0.
RENMEN was very worried about his group in particular because of his first match, but Tyler's the exact kind of opponent he wants to face with the slow lineup and after the Quest Rogue bans. Should be favored in the head-to-head and off to the right foot as he is going to take game number 1 here with his Malygos Togwaggle Druid.
Yeah, and you know, we saw exactly the Togwaggle Azalina game plan was in fact exactly what put RENMEN over the top in that match. They both had their Malygos burn combos and such. RENMEN, to be fair, did get off way ahead in mana thanks to you know, Nourish, Wild Growth, etc. Tyler was playing from behind the entire game, but RENMEN was just able to burn through his resources because he took everything Tyler had and used it against him.
Yep, that's right. And then, of course, the other differences that we were talking about, aside from the fact that Death Rattle Hunter is fairly similar in Quest Rogue, is Q-Block versus even Warlock. And I wonder how much of a dynamic that will play, particularly with the other Hunter decks, because we know in the head-to-head how the matchup goes. But, you know, with Hunters, you know, the Death Rattle Hunter is really strong against these slower Warlock decks if they can get going. But at the same time, Warlock has so much explosive potential on both sides.
Yeah, I do think that the head-to-head, the even Warlock deck is generally a big favorite. They just giant use very hard. As far as the against the Death Rattle Hunter, I do feel like the even Warlock is probably a little bit better positioned, simply because they can actually put on pressure, whereas the Cube Warlock, yes, they can get to the Void Lord plan, but if they don't get there quickly, they end up being in a lot of trouble.
All right, well, that's just the first game that we have here in store. We're going to find out what happens when we come back to the Fall Championships, who is going to take this best of 5 and join us in the quarterfinals.
Я часто беру разные ранги, ну, топ-ранги. Играю в основном всеми колодами. То есть я могу играть на любой колоде, мне не важно какая. Но больше мне нравится именно комбо-колоды. Каких лайнапов я боюсь? Ну, скорее агро-лайнапов, потому что у меня антиконтроль, и это комбо-колоды. Мне бы хотелось попадаться на контроль колоды, очевидно. Возможно, это Зилекс. Ну, это 3-2 юнит, я не знаю, как его описать. Он довольно эффективен. Зилекс очень эффективен и довольно хорош против всех колод, так как он позволяет развернуть стратегию в другом формате. В плане, он поможет тебе отхилиться в нужный момент, а в то же время и темпануть. Как я думаю насчет европейских игроков, я думаю, что все игроки равны, и, ну, прям очень сильных фаворитов нету в данной ситуации. Есть просто у кого-то преимущество в плане лайнапа. Вот. Пушки на 5-й.
On paper, with my lineup, I brought Evenlog, Malygos Druid, Quest Rogue, and Egg Hunter. And on paper, all of those decks are kind of weak to aggro. This time around, I think that there were two options. Either you played aggro or you played anti-control, which I did. The meta's kind of settled, so I think everyone does want to play it a bit safe and just bring whatever works. And those were the two lineups that have been working the best for the past couple of months. Backstab and Quest Rogue, that's probably the biggest innovation we've had in a game in the past months. The Dream Petal Florist, it made Togwaggle Druid viable, which was the deck I had most fun with. Played like thousands of games with it. I think it's very fun. I think it's one of the most skillful decks to play. So Druid definitely benefited the most. Druid just has multiple archetypes that are viable right now. It has Token Druid, Malygos Druid, Togwaggle Druid, you name it. Zilliax on its own is just really good because Hunter lacks a little bit of healing, right? So once you stabilize enough and you just have that little bit of extra healing, it's just really good. Yeah. In the last tournament that I attended with my teammate Casey, together we had a combined score of 4-1 against that exact lineup, so I'm not worried at all.
Tyler currently down 0-1, trying to see if he can turn the tables in this best of 5. And he said it himself, he was bringing anti-control lineup, but that was until he met an even greedier lineup, as RENMEN has found a way to go even further beyond with his Death Rattle Hunter and Cube Warlock remaining in this best of 5.
And now it will be the Even Warlock for Tyler here against the Death Rattle Hunter from RENMEN. We were just talking about these. This is a matchup where typically the Even Warlock is a bit of an underdog. Key parts of that are the presence of both Spider Bomb and Hunter's Mark. To actually give the Hunter deck the ability to deal with early giants very easily. And we see Hunter's Mark already in RENMEN's hand, along with the Devilsaur Egg and Terrascale Stalker. Tyler does have a giant, but he's going first, which means he has to wait until turn 4, when RENMEN will already be firing on all cylinders.
Yep. You know, one of the things we were talking about too is Even Warlock or Cube Warlock do better against Death Rattle Hunter. It's interesting because the stats actually say they perform the same, but that is a very much smaller sample size for Cube Warlock. And speaking of Cube, RENMEN has the opportunity to even go bigger with his egg combos, or he could try another Hunter's Mark for defense to potentially answer another threat from the Even Warlock.
Yeah, I think the fact that Tyler only plays a single copy of Spellbreaker in his version of Even Warlock does make Cube a much bigger threat. He already has one Hunter's Mark, along with Playdead. Playdead plus Cube is so much stronger than say, Terrascale Stalker plus Cube, because you can actually activate it so quickly. So it makes it very difficult for the Even Warlock to really actually control your board before it, well, gets out of control.
Well, Devilsaur Egg into Terrascale Stalker is just one of the strongest plays available for Hunter currently in the metagame, and now Tyler is going to have to deal with a perfect answer to his giant on curve, right? It's a 3-3 and a 5-5.
Also finds no 2-drop for Tyler here, so he doesn't have, you know, say a Beetle or a Vulgar Homunculus. He doesn't actually play Doomsayer, so there's no preemptive way he can try and answer the Stalker activation of this.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world by any means.
Well, there's a Spellbreaker. You know, couldn't have played it last turn even if he had it, but you know, obviously a very, very nice answer to potentially a Cube if it isn't played dead right away.
Yeah, it's a tough spot for Tyler because he knows that this can hurt a lot. It's not even, you know, just the trays on board. It's the threat of Hunter's Mark and Spider Bomb, as you were talking about, Kibler.
And RENMEN's hand is just perfect here. Play dead into Hunter's Mark, into Candle Shot, into 8U. This is just the sort of draw that when your opponent has it on ladder, you're like, okay, fine, you win.
Right.
And you know, Tyler, not gonna give up that easily, but not gonna have that much more hope either.
Right. It's a tough enough matchup, but when you kind of line it up to like a pretty good draw from Tyler versus what most considered to be the optimal draw here for the Hunter, it is going to be very difficult to overcome this if you're sitting in Tyler's seat right now.
I mean, if you were to pick a hand in RENMEN's position to play against Even Warlock, it would be pretty much exactly what he had.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. Tyler can put up a defensive wall with his Hooked Reaver, life tap to put him to 14.
He even burns a card life tapping is the thing.
Yeah,
But, I mean,
that is really annoying.
It does put him in a position where he can at least hope to absorb some of this damage, because otherwise he's just basically dying if he doesn't.
His hand is still pretty good though. Like he has removal with Defile and Hellfire. He has really powerful tempo plays through Bone Mare, some healing, and then ultimately Blood for Gul'dan. So I don't think he's too low. That does hurt, but it's not the end of the world.
And frankly, this is about the best he can hope for here in terms of defending himself with this Hooked Reaver. RENMEN will have to actually lose 2 minions attacking into it, and his only real play this turn is a cube. So he can cube and get the egg activated again. And Tyler does have another Hooked Reaver, so he can defend himself again. But that's still leaving him actually lethaled, because there's the candle shot plus hero power that would kill him through that.
Yeah, he's dead on board if that's the case. So is there an alternative? We're talking about Hellfire and Defile, but there's not enough weak minions. Everything is mid-sized. I think that might be just death.
Yeah, I mean, Kyler would need like a Sunfear Protector with a Giant or something like that in order to actually survive this. No, it wouldn't even survive that way. Still dead to the exact same thing. You would need somehow to have an extra minion in play, and have a Sunfear Protector and a Giant. Yeah, as you're saying, this was just kind of a dream draw for RENMEN, and Tyler had a pretty good draw, but not nearly enough to stand up to this.
Yep, there's a report that was published by the folks over at HS Replay, and it's a very great tool if you guys don't use it already for your Hearthstone ladder experiences. A lot of really good information there. And one of the things that stood out to me was that consistently across all regions, Hunter has quite possibly the highest win rate, and it's specifically Death Rattle Hunter. Different regions have #1 decks. It's like Odd Paladin here, maybe Malygos here, or like even Shaman there. But like consistently at #2 was Death Rattle Hunter across everything. And I think you just get a good example why. Just Death Rattle Hunter has so much powerful, explosive potential that rivals even Warlock. A Giant on 3 is not as good actually as an Egg, a 3/3, and a Devil Sword.
Yeah. When someone coins out a Devil Sword Egg against me, I'm just like, oh god, no. Because it's just so powerful. You just end up in a position where you're putting a Giant's worth of stats on the board, and you're doing it before your opponent can actually play a Giant going first, like you were just saying. So it's a very, very powerful deck, capable of explosive starts, and has a lot of resilience through the mid and late game.
Right. And the transformation too has been fairly greedy. Like a lot of those Death Rattle Hunters, or like the slow Egg Hunters at first, were playing more early curve, like Fireflies and whatnot, to try to help shore up its early game. But it's since evolved, and it's still perfectly fine because of things like Candle Shot and Hunter's Mark to help stabilize early on. So Hunter has definitely become a really explosive deck, despite the fact that it's slowed down considerably compared to the years in the past.
Yeah, I mean, we saw just last championship, we talked about the Recruit Hunter deck that was so popular. It was like a double Charge Devil Sword King Crush deck more than anything else. And now, with the introduction of Spider Bomb and such, you have so much more powerful like tools to fight through the early game that you don't necessarily have to be quite so explosive late.
All right, well, we've had a couple of sweeps today. Will we see another one? What's going to happen in Game 3 between Tyler and RENMEN? Can Tyler complete the reverse sweep, or RENMEN just finish off where he started? We'll find out when we come back.
This is insane! What did I just witness?
I don't even know.
Fnatic has done it!
Dignitas is far too much for 10-bit as they rip this core apart.
Leyline is in play and Boing is down, the triple kill as the Zealots march towards the core.
They go into the back line! Is it the kill? It is! Oh my gosh!
DJ, now it's time for the well-played moment.
No! It's my time to shine.
It's your time to shine. I
And
don't think
now it's time.
Hold on one second. Okay, now it's time for the well-played moment.
Before I get into the well-played moment, I just want to say that now it's time for the well-played moment.
The well-played moment is Bloody Face versus Tincho. Opening match, or the initial match rather, of the top 8. If you win this match, you have to win only one more to go to the Fall Championships. It's Quest Rogue versus Secret Hunter. What Bloody Face has in his opening hand is the Quest. Obviously, don't mulligan that ever. 100% keep every time. Bloody Face does something very interesting. Instead of playing Quest on turn 1, he plays the Glacial Shard to challenge a potential Secret Keeper or a potential 2-mana drop like a Crackling Razor Maul that could stack on itself. So instead of being reactive, he is proactive. On turn 2, he daggers up in case his opponent has a good turn 3. And then from that point on, you can just see how his advantages keep stacking.
A good display of kind of manipulating his opponent's game plan.
Yes.
He forced Tincho into one way to play. Such brilliant play, and reading what your opponent can do and knowing what their win conditions are in the matchup is a tough skill to have, and one that Bloody Face not only showed in this matchup, but across many of the matchups he played. This was just the one that we chose because I thought this was the simplest, cleanest, but most well-played moment of the Americas playoffs.
Do you know the stat on how many number of turns it's held on average? It's 0.03. It is played turn 1 so often that it doesn't even come up on a significant number of radar how often it's not played on turn 1. But the fact that he's able to find a 1-game corner case scenario based on the way his opening hand was and the position the Quest Rogue was in against Secret Hunter, to not play Quest until turn 4, that is really cool in itself.
Welcome back to the Hearthstone Global Games. New for the second season, we're proud to introduce HGG Cheer. Cheering is a way to show support for players and regions while boosting your presence in chat using bits, a virtual good you can buy on Twitch. Along the way, you'll unlock Hearthstone packs, new Twitch emotes, and a unique card back, while the players earn a share of the revenue. See you in the tavern.
RENMEN from Russia currently up 2-0, 1 game away from going to the top 8, and would be the first European player to get a spot in the quarterfinals. We have 4 players that'll be going to the top 8 today, and then tomorrow is where it really starts heating up, Kibler. Elimination Day, which I'm really excited. But for now, we'll find out if Tyler can turn the tables. And I gotta say, it's looking pretty bad because his best chance to reverse sweep was actually already passed. It was the Malygos Druid, the Malygos Togwago Druid. He had good matchups except for the Druid versus Druid. So he has to sweep Q-Block 3 times. And, you know, Q-Block still, it's not as good. You know, it's lost a step, kind of suffered an ACL injury since its you know, prime days. But man, it's still got some punch. You talk about playing Skull to Minari, and that still can just solo games by itself.
It's true, yeah, and that's definitely something that could easily come up in one of the 3 games RENMEN has available to pick up a win with it. And Tyler is on what is his strongest matchup here, which is the Even Warlock. Going to give him the opportunity to play those early Mountain Giants that can give the Q-Block so much trouble, and he's got the coin, he's got a Mountain Giant right away.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that you want.
The
good news for Tyler is that he's got slight edges against the Cube Warlock in every single instance, but still not looking good. RENMEN just has to pick up pretty good, decent anti-aggro tools.
Interesting play from RENMEN there, choosing to hold on to the Librarian turn 1. He wants to have that in his hand. A, he doesn't really want to attack Tyler early and allow Tyler to enable Hook Reaver. And B, he wants to give himself as many opportunities as possible to pick up a Spell Stone that he can use the damage from the Librarian to enable.
Right. It's a pretty heads-up play here from RENMEN to hold on to it. I know I would have easily autopiloted Cobalt Librarians. Like, why not play it on turn 1?
Got a Wonder Up, let's play it.
Yeah, and it also gives, you know, a little bit less information to Tyler because you have that card that you held on for a while. You're not sure what it's going to be, what it could be. It could be a lot of stuff. It messes with Tyler's head. That being said, does he have an answer to the Giant now, right? Because you hold on to the Cobalt Librarian because you can most likely play it on 3 mana anyways. No harm, no foul. You increase your chances of the Spellstone. In this case, RENMEN could tap first and then play the Cobalt Librarian if he still wants that Spellstone.
Interesting.
So many
There are other 2 mana plays. Doomsayer?
He could be looking for Doomsayer here. He wants to play it first.
Ooh.
Draw that. And he does.
What a rip.
So, and that is just such a level of recognition here, because he realizes, okay, I held this first because I wanted to give myself this window. Now my window is closing, and there's more important factors than do I upgrade a spellstone. He wants to give himself the best chance of being able to proactively answer this giant, and he's rewarded with that.
Exactly.
So that was beautiful.
Yeah, it's not necessarily like it would have made that bigger difference, because he would have had that Doomsayer anyways had he played Cobalt on 1. It's the fact that he kept his options
Right,
open.
exactly.
And adapted to his game.
Right. He could have chosen, okay, I'm going to tap and give myself the best chance for the spellstone, but deciding what's more important.
Yeah.
And he realizes what's important is finding Doomsayer, and he finds it. Paid off.
Right. At its core, if you really just think about it conceptually, card games is all about manipulating percentages a lot of the time. So I think that was a nice little spot there and a good breakdown. Now, on Tyler's side, man, we kind of like talking about this play a lot. How much does this thing? You have double giant, a Twilight Drake. You'd love to get it on curve. Tyler even tossing out his Sun Fury Protector. And, he's basically saying, I'd rather keep this coin. I'd rather be able to squeeze out a little bit more of official tempo play as my turns develop on odd-costed manas.
Yeah, the options for Tyler there are do nothing, which means that you burn your next card, which could be a very key card like, say, Blood River Gul'dan, or use your coin. And using the coin means that he loses the opportunity for a tempo boost at a later turn, which is very important. Or just throw away the Sun Fury Protector. He recognizes Sun Fury, not really a key card in this matchup. I would rather hold on to the coin and card number 1 behind the door.
Right. Even Warlock has one of the best hero powers to benefit off of Gen Greymaine's start of game effect to draw a card, but you life tap so much early game that you often have trouble squeezing in better plays because you can't life tap. So the coin is actually very useful to smooth out the curve, so you can get out, say, double 4s on turn 8, or maybe hit that Lich King a little bit earlier, or even just coining out something on 5 so you can get out these awkward cards.
And speaking of awkward, this is an awkward moment for Tyler here, because he has a lot of options, but he also knows that that RENMEN has a lot of options like Faceless Manipulator that he can use this turn, and he decides, okay, I'm going to play this Twilight Drake rather than playing a Giant. I don't want my Giant to potentially just get copied, because that's a much bigger threat.
Yeah, I think the Twilight Drake is better for the reasons you mentioned. It trades to the 4/4, which seems to be more important, board control.
Right.
And then his Giant's still going to be 3 mana, so he picks up a 2-mana card. He can squeeze that in too. It's a little bit more efficient. Also, RENMEN could have realistically picked up a Spellstone, so then he would have just had that Giant easily removed, versus the 4/10 would have survived.
One of the really scary things is that if he plays a Giant, and RENMEN does have Faceless, and RENMEN has Cube, that's a disaster.
Oh, you're right.
Whereas if he has Faceless, then he has Cube for Twilight Drake, that's just garbage.
Congrats, you have 2 4-1s.
Yeah, oh, nice Cube there, buddy.
Yeah. So we've held on to the Giant for a while. Unfortunately, Tyler still can't hold it for another turn to power play because it just doesn't work. Giant will become 7 mana total for 3 and 4. And this is the kind of the problem we're talking about. You run into life tapping so much that you actually can't do in the mid stage of the game, and why Tyler felt the need to hold on to the coin. Another card that's actually kind of an unsung hero in this matchup is Skulking Geist, because there are so many powerful 1-mana cards in Warlock with specifically the Dark Pact to destroy your cube and your possessed lackeys.
Yeah, Dark Pact is a huge element of the Cube Warlock deck. It was so powerful that it got nerfed alongside Possessed Lackey, and the ability to deny the immediate activation of cubes is pretty huge. And Tyler, I think, was hoping that was a Doom Guard.
Right. But it still has a contingency plan to kill the Void Lord. And also upgrade double spell stuff. Yeah. That is going to be really useful, because that almost means the Doom Guards, if they get played and you don't kill them, you can just answer them with 1 card.
Well, I mean, Tyler is now at 17. He does have Hooked Reaver in hand, along with those 2 copies of Spellstone you just mentioned.
Yeah,
he doesn't really have a way to get through the Voidwalkers, but from RENMEN's perspective, he's got to figure out, okay, well, how do I stabilize here?
Right.
He doesn't necessarily want to push Tyler until he has the ability to really combo kill Tyler. Ooh, finds a Librarian to upgrade the Spellstone.
Yeah, that's big.
And draws the other
Doom Guard.
That's not what he's looking for. The Doom Guard is a card he wants mostly in his deck until he has the Skull of a Minari. So if Tyler can find Acidic Swamp Ooze, those could be difficult Doom Guards for Renman to actually utilize.
So many possibilities.
I guess it depends on who you ask. If you ask Renman, probably not always
Ask
looking for
Admirable.
it. You ask Admirable, who loves playing Doom Guard from the hand.
Get him
regardless.
in there.
He is
I
A-okay.
think this is setting up a Defile.
Yeah, it looks like a very
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep.
Very nicely done. Save the Spellstone for another mid-sized threat. Plenty of them.
Well, Tyler has Giant plus Reaver, so no mid-sized threats here, just monsters. Though the Spellstone does come in pretty handy at helping him deal with at least one of these. Second Spellstone, though unupgraded.
Well,
He can attack plus Hellfire and Spellstone here, actually. Yeah, that's
use the weaker one.
Use the weaker one too. Instead of 7 remaining. And Tyler's down to 9.
He's down to 9, but I still wouldn't be super afraid until my opponent gets to maybe 10 mana where they can like double Doomguard me, I guess.
I mean, he doesn't really have that much life gain. You know, there is the Shroom Brewer in his hand. He has 2 Spellstones in his hand, but those need targets in order to actually get used.
Well, Tyler has pretty good threats here. Twilight Drake and the Shroom Brewer is the first thing that my mind gravitated towards. I wonder if in his mind he wants to also play Skulking Geist to shut down some of that big combo potential.
Life tapping. I was gonna call it. Yeah. I was like, what in the?
Makes sense.
Aggressive. But no, okay. I
No fear. As an even Warlock, in general, as a defensive, slow, controlling Warlock of any kind, or one that life taps a lot, you have to be unafraid to life tap a lot of times.
Certainly.
It is often what separates the...
I was less. I actually just like glossed over the coin in his hands. It had been so long, so I was like, oh yeah, what is he doing? Is he gonna play Homunculus plus this? That seems wrong, but no, he's able to double 4 anyway thanks to the coin. And now Renman, he has the Doomsayer he just picked up. Could try to use that to buy a little time plus the Spellstone.
Yeah, and he has a lot of life too.
It's true. He's at 25, so he's a lot of time here. That Lackey is going to guarantee him a Void Lord unless he happens to draw it.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah, and
They'll serve me now.
Tyler doesn't have the silence, but I imagine that if he can deal with the Void Lord, he'd prefer to. But now we're coming up on turn 10, which means that they have Blood River Gul'dan, they have 2 Void Lords that come back. So you'd rather your opponent not have it and have potential to draw into their Void Lord. Tyler's unafraid. Oh, he doesn't know about the Doom Guards. That's right. We're working off cast vision.
Tyler, I think, is still hoping in both of these cases when he has killed these that there is a Doom Guard behind him. But in neither situation is that what the reality is.
Right. Guess the nice thing is that this Vulgar Homunculus is just perfectly statted so that the Void Walkers can't trade in for free damage and resurrect. Is there any value for Tyler to play this other Vulgar Homunculus is the question.
It leaves him more open to getting Hellfired or Godfreyed, and I think that he may need that Homunculus as protection against a possible Doomguard burst.
Yep, agreed. It doesn't do too much, and like
ooh,
you said,
there's Skull. Skull of the Minari is the draw for Renman here. Double Doomguard in hand, plus that cube even, and Skulking Geist still in Tyler's hand.
Yeah.
So Renman at any point could pick up a Dark Pact and just close the game out if he's able to get through this taunt.
When Europe playoffs happened at the very beginning of the Boomsday expansion season, one of the decks that I thought would do really well was Cube Warlock, primarily because people, for the most part, stopped playing weapon removal, it felt like. Oh!
He's just going. Just going in.
There's, you know,
wow.
the angel on one shoulder, and then
the
there's
Admirable
on the other.
Okay.
Oh, God. Oh, man, that's so funny.
And he lost Skull and Cube here. All right, both. All right, well, wow, that is aggressive from Renman here. Double Doomguard from the hand. Okay, he does put Tyler down to just 6 life.
Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness.
Well, that's Gul'dan here. There's what comes back? There's one Vulgar Homunculus. That's not enough to keep him alive. There's a Dread Infernal as well as a Hooked Reaver. I think, is it 2 Hooked Reavers? But regardless, that puts him to 11. He can kill 2 of these, and then there's just a Vulgar Homunculus against both of these Doom Guards.
He can I think he can clear most of this though. With his Defile, Spellstone, Hellfire combination should be able to just handle all of it.
I believe you're correct there.
And I think with like your opponent ditching a cube, I mean, all demons have been played, so Skull Minar is not even that relevant anymore, so that's okay. I guess that's probably RENMEN's logic. Like Skull was only good if he guaranteed the double Doomguard could get pulled out, but Tyler also has Acidic Swamp Ooze in it.
Right.
So if he
And
wastes
Tyler
5
has
mana,
been holding a lot of cards for a very long time.
right, exactly, and that is a card that Tyler would hold on for a long time. Yeah, actually doesn't even need Defile whatsoever, just if he wants to play this Ogre Homunculus, get another demon into the pool. And RENMEN needs Blood of the Gul'dan very soon.
Was that Gul'dan?
That was Zilliax.
Oh, okay. I was like, dear God, did he just draw it immediately? But he has the Doomsayer here, which will prevent the Gul'dan from coming down.
Oh, this is kind of funny. Zilliax with Prince Dal'Doran. I think RENMEN might be tempted to duplicate this Doomsayer in case his opponent has Blood of Gul'dan. But regardless of it, still an awkward situation for Tyler if he wants to summon all of his demons back.
Right, and RENMEN only has 8 cards left in his deck. Tyler, he could play Skulkengeist to get rid of the Dark Pacts, but that's not what's scary anymore. What's scary is RENMEN drawing Gul'dan.
What about Tyler tossing in a demon into his pool? If
I think that's totally legitimate. I think playing Dread Infernal here.
Oh, yeah, Skulkengeist still hasn't been played.
But Skulkengeist takes 2 cards out of RENMEN's deck and makes him that much more likely to draw Gul'dan.
Oh, you're right.
That's why this is terrifying to me. Like, I feel like you're in so much better position if you prevent your opponent from being as likely to just draw Gul'dan. But
wow.
Well, speaking of Gul'dan, Tyler has his. He's going big, but the problem is RENMEN's Gul'dan is so much better. If he draws it now, he's getting back a bunch of gigantic minions. And there it is. That's Gul'dan.
Yeah, that is going to be big time news for RENMEN. Now, Tyler does have double Defile, does have some ways to potentially answer part of the board, but with 2 Void Lords, 2 Doomguards in the pool, that's just a lot of help that's available.
It is, and there are the Doomguards. He could get just Void Walkers. If he doesn't get Void Lords, gets Void Walkers, doesn't get Doomguards. This could still be an okay position for Tyler here. I think RENMEN may be trying to figure out, can he do something to fancy to clear this board and then let him go down in a better position, but.
Right, and we know, again, a question of what ifs. What if the 2 Dark Pacts were stacked on top of the Blood Reaver Gul'dan?
Yeah, that is a Doomguard and a Void Lord, and there's still that Giant in play.
I think RENMEN's counting Defile math, and it's pretty solvable because you know about what the damage is on board plus the hero power.
The thing is, RENMEN has 3 cards in his deck. Tyler has 10. Is there a way for Tyler to play some kind of just removal plus hero power game and just grind RENMEN out in fatigue?
It's possible, that's for sure. We need to get some cheap health minions on the board here, some capacity. But I think with 2 Defiles, Tyler should be able to figure out a way to get this.
There's a 1.
There's a 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, and then hero power can reduce one of them.
Well, he wants to kill the Void. Does he want to kill the Void Lord first, or can he kill it?
That's true.
Yeah, I think he wants to kill the Void Lord first.
And then he just needs a 2 health minion, and he needs a way to hit the Mountain Giant.
Well, he has the hero power.
Right, so 6 attack plus hero power.
If he does put that to 3, then if it goes to 6, he's able to clear off everything. There's no 2 still, though.
I must feed.
He could 2 by playing Dread Infernal. Hero
but then he can't Defile twice.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Tyler is going through all the iterations here.
Oh, the 2's from the Doomguard.
There is, but now he can't fight and kill the 8/8, right? If 1, 2, 3. Yeah, this does leave a Giant up, and...
Oh, okay. Oh, a little sloppy here.
Ooh, yeah.
Actually, fairly sloppy, because now his Hooked Reaver took extra damage.
Oh, and Tyler, we see his head in his hands. He is crushed.
Yeah, and Zilliax in this spot can help RENMEN push damage. He can keep Hellfire for burst and AoE.
Zilliax, if he wants, you can Zilliax plus Tal'Daram and get 8 to the face, 3 to the face.
Yeah.
Bloody decisions.
Oh no, Tyler, his hands are in his head. He's so distraught from how everything panned out. I think what he was relying upon too was the extra Defile procs that would come off of the Void Walkers that popped out the
And it was
Void
just-
Lord.
The math was not quite there for what he was trying to do.
And I mean, I played the Boomsday Lab puzzles enough to recognize that some of these puzzles can be really tricky. Heal for 6. With another Defile contact. Tyler's like, wait, I wish I had my other Defile.
Tyler down to just 5.
But he's close to stabilizing. He's very close.
There's only 2 cards left in RENMEN's deck.
RENMEN is so close to killing. Got 6 damage right now.
That's a cube. So RENMEN's, frankly,
in an awkward spot.
He is in an awkward spot.
Right.
He can cube this.
So part of the problem with RENMEN's position is that Tyler can just break even with the hero power, and he's 7 turns ahead of Fatigue.
But this cube has 2 Ziliacs, and those have Divine Shield.
Well,
which makes them tough.
But you can
doesn't the
deal with
Black
it.
Knight. So punches it, bites it.
The 1
7/7.
health. That 1 health is trolling RENMEN right now.
It really is.
And then if you Hellfire and clear the board, you're spending your turn removing. Spearing your Umbra is
but
just nothing really.
If
Actually,
the Hellfire bites on the Black Knight, then the problem is he never has an opportunity to Mountain Giant in a way that can actually stick. He has to stick an actual minion.
and Umbra's the only minion he can stick. But it's 4 health.
Right.
So Warlock will be at 4 health, and then they bite the Umbra, and you're still off on damage. Because Hellfire, I feel like you can't let this this board develop. You play Mountain Giant, and your opponent.
Well, your opponent
finds
just
a way to
kills it.
remove
Yeah, you have to Hellfire bite Umbra here, but I think the way that the math works out, you still, leave them at 4, but they get to use their hero power. They go up to 7. You're off, and once you play the Umbra, you can never play Mountain Giant. It's an 11 cost card. So yeah, I think he has to just play the Mountain Giant and hope there's no way for Tyler to kill him.
He holds, so he can play Mountain
That's
Giant.
the thing. If you play the Umbra, you can never play Mountain Giant. You just have to hope your opponent can't have a combination of 2 cards plus hero power that kills Mountain Giant. But Tyler has this Gen. But the RENMEN can actually just try and kill the Gen over 2 turns with the hero power, and that Giant hits really hard.
Right. But
so Tyler, I think, is just breaking down what are the cards RENMEN has left, and if he could just figure it out, and we see RENMEN just sort of sit up, a little bit uncomfortably as Gen comes down, because Gen is what he's hoping not to see. Nothing that can kill that Giant on board for Tyler, because Giant is his last hope. He could try and bite Gen, wait, bite Gen, then play Giant, but that's just too slow.
he can.
And that's what he's gonna do. He's got to stick Giant. There's no way he wins otherwise.
And Tyler can just keep developing. Is he going to develop, though? And he's also catching up in the life difference.
He is.
Like, one of the big things is RENMEN's not hitting, and this is the punishment for RENMEN going so much deeper into fatigue. That's a concede. Tyler survives the onslaught and is going to be down 1-2, but perhaps the beginning of a comeback.
That must have been such a stressful game for Tyler, because we saw, just how shaken he was when that one turn where he tried to clear with double defile and missequenced things, miscounted things, but he was still able to pull it out. He needs to pull himself together and try to take the rest of this series.
One game at a time. One game at a time. As much as it really stinks to feel like you messed up a big play and what could have been a deciding game, that doesn't matter anymore. And now Tyler has finally checked off a really important deck with his even Warlock, but now he has to beat Cube Warlock 2 more times. And if that was a matchup that was favored for him, can you imagine how stressful it is if he meets a more even matchup?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was a game that had so many critical moments. We saw the Doomsayer that RENMEN picked up off of the Cobalt Librarian on turn 3 that shut down the early game from Tyler, and he was able to really push the tempo on his terms from the very beginning. And then just the Gul'dan draw that one turn.
Right.
It really just swung back and forth so many points, but ultimately Tyler just narrowly eked it out in the end.
Yeah, and I kind of wonder if RENMEN, you know, going back, I think one of the deciding turns was this play for double Doomguard. And granted, he pushed a lot of damage, and if he was able to squeeze even one more point, this would all be a no point even we're talking about. He would win 3-0, he'd be moving on, but kind of have to wonder about what was going on there. And in the end, I do think RENMEN made a really cool choice, and honestly, I think it's fine given the circumstances, but it does sting to be just 1 point off.
I mean, one of the big things is if his first Doomguard discard does not hit the cube, the game is very different, because he still has access to cube in order to potentially burst with that Doomguard at a key moment. And speaking of Skull, that was discarded from that Doomguard as well, RENMEN has it in his opening hand, and this deck from Tyler does not have weapon removal, so we will not see RENMEN decide to send that one off with a Doomguard.
Yeah, Druid is pretty adept at dealing with a lot of shenanigans because it has so much armor gain and has hard removal options with Naturalize. But, I mean, RENMEN has, again, the fairly greedy version of Cube Warlock. Mountain Giants in there. He's got Spear Singer Umbra and Tal'Daram and Faces for maximum shenanigans.
Speaking of shenanigans, though, Tyler has a shenanigans Druid hand. He has Wild Growth into Nourish with Arcane Tyrant, Alexstrasza, Infestation. You know, right now, RENMEN is already in trouble.
Yeah, with no Mountain Giant in hand. No life tap because he doesn't want to overcome.
Oh, there's Twig too.
Oh, nasty.
That's interesting.
Yeah, is it worth getting the one extra turn of the Twig versus having the mana crystals for the following turn? And I think, you know, it's worth evaluating if you're Tyler. Because if you do have that extra turn, does your hand make you want to rush out that extra 10 mana crystals that you can get from Twig of the World Tree? Because we've seen players just take their time. They're like, you know what? Even if I set the Twig now, by the time I get to one charge, I'm probably not going to attack with it anyways.
I feel like Twig now and Nourish next turn actually makes a ton of sense because you want to get Twig online quickly in order to advance. Yeah, that is what Tyler's going to do. Because you want to get your Twig online, it takes time before it does anything. You have to keep grinding those charges down. Whereas Nourish is going to get you to 10 mana as quickly if you play it this turn as if you play it next turn. He's not ramping to anything in particular if he just goes to 7 to 8. What he really wants to hit is 10 for Infestation.
This is not good. RENMEN has a full hand. Can dump a card through Prince Tal'Daram.
I mean, he can coin out Skull, and coining out Skull is often powerful, but he doesn't really have... He's going to cast Defile. So he feels like his coin is important, especially given that he's got nothing with Skull anyway.
Right.
And
coin lackey, perhaps.
And this is just gross, because now Tyler has Alexstrasza next turn, and then just has Infestation.
Right. And should be able to draw enough cards to make his Twig snap on the exact timing that he wants to. One of the few downsides of having Twig of the World Tree is how slow the startup is. Tyler's already checked off that mark by being safe. And then having the resource to back it up, Tyler's going to get that too.
This is Alexstrasza your face, hit your face for 5. RENMEN is at 10. He has 5 mana. Tyler is going to Infestation for half his life next turn.
That being said, RENMEN has an interesting way to set up defenses with Prince Tal'Daram on the lackey and doubling his chances for a Void Lord to keep him safe.
Yeah, he can play this Kobold, play Tal'Daram, and then Defile to clear everything but the Alexstrasza. Hope to hit Void Lord so he doesn't just get killed.
Double Doomguard though spells the end.
Well, no, Doomguard he can trade with the Alexstrasza anyway, if he so chooses.
Yep, just for some reason ignored the damage on Alexstrasza.
I mean, but
he would have just traded both Doomguards.
He just almost dies to Infestation by itself.
That's right, that's true.
This is an interesting point here, interesting moment here for RENMEN. He can make this trade that will protect his Void Lord from getting killed. No, decides to go face. And I think that makes a lot of sense given the circumstances.
I think he just wants to go into counteroffensive. If he picks up Dark Pact, he can put out more Doomguard pressure.
And this, I think, also forces Tyler to actually Infestation the Doomguard because of Carnivorous Cube. I think Tyler will have to attack into the Void Lord and then kill the Doomguard rather than going face. Yeah, and that's exactly what he does. Because now there's the risk of any kind of healing that makes that much more dangerous. And that's Malagos, and that's a swipe.
And that would be death for RENMEN.
So RENMEN, he's got to gain some life. I mean, that's a Malagos with Moonfire with. I think this is still just lethal, right? He's going to go for 13.
Very much so.
Yeah.
It is very much death here for RENMEN. Tyler's Malagos Druid able to overrun the Cube Warlock, but again, we were kind of expecting this. Malagos Druid has a lot of burst, and Cube Warlock does lower their life without as much life gain because of the Dark Pact nerf months ago. It comes down to game number 5 on whether or not either of these players are going to the quarterfinals or falling to the lower decider match.
It looked like RENMEN might run away with this one. He was up 2-0, had Tyler against the wall in a tough spot in that even Warlock matchup as well. But Tyler takes 2 games and is threatening the reverse sweep to make his way to the quarterfinal.
Right, and it also shows you just the other downside too. Like, he kept Skull Minari, never played it because he just never drew any of his demons. Had to instead use combo pieces to pull out demons. And imagine if he was able to get it maybe even 1 turn earlier, right? Start pressuring their opponent. The Possessed Lackey nerf also come into play there.
Yeah, and we saw just kind of Druid doing Druid things that game, though. Tyler had just the absolute ridiculous nut draw with Wild Growth into Twig, into Nourish, into Alexstrasza, into Infestation, over that many turns, basically. So pretty tough for any deck to deal with that.
Yep, the last matchup rather will be Death Rattle Hunter for Tyler and Cube Warlock for RENMEN. And the good news for RENMEN is that his Cube Warlock seems to do okay against Death Rattle Hunter on paper compared to the Even Warlock. But I mean, that's just off of, again, a low sample size. I don't know actually how great it is these days because it doesn't feel like many people are playing Cube Block on ladder. When was the last time you ran into one?
It's been a while, and very, very infrequently. Play against probably more Zoo than anything, then even Warlock. Then,
I ran into like more Mecha Zoo Warlock.
Control Warlock, not even Cube Block. I think I play more against than Cube Block. So as you mentioned, not really much data out there. But RENMEN, I think he said this is his favorite deck, so he certainly has the data as to how this sort of matchup goes, and probably more comfortable playing it than Tyler will be.
It all comes down to this game 5, and you can sense, you can feel the drama. Just look at Tyler covering half his face as he is trying to tunnel in and focus on what cards he needs versus what cards you should throw away. Houndmaster Shaw, one of the better cards in Death Rattle Hunter in general, but would love to pick up some of that early packaged pressure. Keeps Play Dead and Carnivorous Q. That's a nice 2 tandem combo, and even keeps the tracking early on, as tracking is a card that a lot of people debate whether you want to hold on to it, whether you want to play it early on, because you know what matchup you're going up against in tournaments.
Yeah, so RENMEN with Void Lord, not too happy to have that in his opening hand unless he does pick himself up a Skull, or rather the Skull. Tyler gonna go ahead and tracking turn 1. Much more valuable than Candleshot in this particular matchup. Finds the second Cube and Grizzly as potential options. I feel like Cube is one of the strongest cards in the matchup, but I don't know that he wants 2 of them.
Right. It makes sense to want to hold on to Cube because this matchup is not going to be determined by the first 5 turns of the game.
He does decide that Cube is what he wants.
Yeah. Also, because you're going up to Warlock that life taps a lot, so Witchwood Grizzly is most likely going to be like a 3-5.
It's true, though. He does have Cube,
3-4.
and often Grizzly isn't necessarily what you want to Cube. Well, he got one of each.
Actually, that was exactly his tracking choice on the 3 red cards.
It's true.
Candleshot,
sort of weird.
Cube, and the Witchwood.
All right.
Oh,
3
man.
pair.
That's pretty funny. Well, that means deck tracking in his mind is easier.
Yeah.
As the silver lining. Oh, interesting. So Tyler wants to set up this weapon because I think he anticipates coining out his Houndmaster Shaw, perhaps? Unless he is going to track it for something else now that he's drawn this card.
Well, is Houndmaster Shaw, who does come down.
Right.
He does know that there could be a Spellstone for Giant here.
This makes sense if he gets like Spider Bomb off the top. He can tracking for it too.
He finds another plate and an egg.
Okay. Yep, no Hunter's Mark to be seen, no Spider Bomb, but the Devilsaur Egg with Carnivorous Cube
It is
could have some shenanigans.
Though speaking of shenanigans, that's a cube for RENMEN too. He could cube up
Right.
this, or just
Faceless. I mean,
Yeah.
just put out maximum pressure, and all of a sudden, this isn't even a Cube Warlock at this point of the game. It is just a good old-fashioned Mountain Giant handlock.
Yeah.
Oh, this is tense. Tyler knows one slip up could mean the game, because with two Giants pressuring, that just means that you put yourself in a lethal spot if you mess up here.
He has a cube he could use to give himself a 5/5 and a 4/6 on the board, but there's just two 8/8s that push a ton of damage.
Right.
And even the threat of cube plus pact in one of those two is terrifying. He doesn't really have any way to proactively try to deal with them. He could try and hide behind Giggling Inventor, but that just buys him a little bit of time.
Right. If any. If your opponent has a Defile, they're most likely just going to get past your minions.
It's true.
The nice thing about Defile, though, is it does activate your egg, but then all of a sudden things like the Tailscare Stalker get a little bit more awkward.
Defile by itself wouldn't clear. You'd have to attack something.
You have to attack.
Get a little bit more damage, and so you'd only get 8 through. But again, you're not really doing anything that is proactively threatening the opponent in any way.
Attack onto the Giant preemptively. It's free anyways, but Tyler wants to get ahead.
Oh, that is Skull of the Minari for RENMEN here. He already has an advantage position on the board.
Tyler does have a Gluttonous who's in his deck, but nowhere to be seen right now, and double tracking has already been utilized.
RENMEN has a lot of options here. He could go ahead and just push face cube, make himself some, potentially some more giants here.
Right.
He could trade cube. He could trade or just push face and play the skull. Looks like he's going for the trade cube here. Wants to put himself in a powerful position. And Tyler generate some powerful stuff of his own.
Ooh, Ziliax.
And there's a Godfrey in RENMEN's hand here, so if there's a lot of ways for him to potentially pick apart at whatever board Tyler may create. And now 2 more eggs.
Yeah, so the thing about RENMEN's setup is that it's great for board resilience, but at the same time, he's giving Tyler essentially the initiative. And that's where Tyler's attack was really was awfully pressuring, because he was able to foresee that by attacking into the Giant and now set this up trade, and all of a sudden RENMEN, now he's on the back foot.
Yeah.
This has gotten very explosive. This went from 0 to 60 real quick.
What does a Godfrey look like here? Probably bad for RENMEN. He can attack into one of the 5/5s or into the cube.
Right.
To trigger Godfrey into Godfrey into Godfrey into Godfrey. I think maybe even the Giants die.
Yeah, and also you have to don't forget that there's more eggs inside the cube.
Right. Yeah. There's just a lot of nonsense.
I think that would end up costing him a lot, because he might end up doing more damage than good.
All right. Well, there the Giants come out.
What mess have you summoned me to?
What mess have you summoned me to? A lot of damage on Tyler's side of the board.
Yeah.
A couple of demons who are ready for action after the skull.
But a Defile was used, which makes Giggling Inventor a lot better, but it is scary to account for the skull possibilities. 1 cube has been used. So a Doomguard maximum damage burst would be 15, plus the Giant on board has 23, and that would be death. So you need to do something defensive here. Seems like Giggling Inventor or the Witchwood Grizzly is the best course of action.
And these 3 eggs on Tyler's side, may not be doing much now, but they are fantastic protection against any kind of AoE.
Right. And RENMEN pulls the defensive option, so it doesn't look like he has big burst opportunities right now. Giggling Inventor doing what he does best.
Sad Giant.
Ooh.
Spider Bomb can even team up with Ziliax. Not on this board. He'd have to. He'd have to attack something in, lose a body.
Yeah.
If you even team up with Ziliax on one of these little fellas, the Noyotrons, but Katharina.
Yeah, can pull out a Witchwood Grizzly that's full stats.
King
Ooh.
Crush.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of Kings come out today, but King Crush, the best statted one by a hefty margin. And now Tyler has, you know, even more death rattles to complicate Lord Godfrey.
Very useful.
Oh my goodness. Actually, something I consider is how much damage that can be done here with RENMEN with a single Hellfire.
Yeah, what could happen here? He has 13 plus
19, 22.
Is it?
If
13.
he Hellfires, but he loses his
right, so,
Voidwalkers.
so the Hellfires won't quite work, right?
If he Ziliax, if he Ziliax trades, then he would have 10, 18 plus Hellfires, 21.
Is it really?
I think.
13.
Because you want a Hellfire for the 3 damage to the face.
Right.
And if you played Ziliax, you get past a taunt. So right now, Tyler's actually living by the skin of his teeth.
Four life left. 1 damage off lethal.
Very close.
Almost out of time.
And if RENMEN drops the series from this point, that would be multiple games that he's been off by 1. And also, Tyler does have a deck that can capitalize on it, but both cubes have been used.
Well, Tyler has the Ziliax Spider Bomb. He has tools.
That's right. Can climb back in the life count.
To get some life back, but can he chop through enough of this board? There is that Ziliax on the board too. Ziliax plus Spider Bomb can end up giving him 5 life now.
I mean, I think he's also tempted to want to use Spider Bomb with this Terror Scale Stalkers to help keep things clear. But then there's also the threat of another Doomguard being pulled from the Skull Minari the following turn.
Yeah, this is a tough spot for Tyler. He's got 4 attacks he's got to get through before he can get to anything on the other side of the board too. And his Candle Shot can be one of those against the Divine Shield. So he might not even be able to Ziliax here alongside the Spider Bomb. He may just have the Ziliax by itself and then hope to Terror Scale Stalker into, well, he actually can't even Terror Scale Stalker into a Witchwood Grizzly. He wouldn't have room.
Yes, Ziliax needs to come down here. He needs to get this life back, clear off as much of the board as possible, and hope
it's enough
that RENMEN can't answer this. I mean, RENMEN can just Spellstone through, but he has to hope that his big minion doesn't die.
Any 2 minions kills ends the game. The Spellstone on the Spider Bomb.
Right. Exactly. And the Hellfire will all but ensure it.
Lot of dinosaurs, but they are just going to be spectators to RENMEN's victory as he wins a nail-biter of a match against Tyler.
Tyler almost completed the reverse sweep, but RENMEN, with his Cube Warlock, finally able to get over the hump. You can see the sigh of relief. And many of us have been there before. We felt like we had it in the bag and then almost like, oh my gosh, did I celebrate too early type of thing? Did I write off the series too quick? But RENMEN is the first European to go to the quarterfinals, and rightfully so.
Yeah, we will see him moving on to play on Sunday, while Tyler will face the winner of Island Cat and Tin Show tomorrow.
All right, well, Tyler still has a really good chance to advance group. I think overall his play could have used a couple of notches, better, but at the same time, go back to the drawing board and get some rest. Cora is waiting with our winner, RENMEN, for a couple words on his victory.
That's right. I am joined by RENMEN, who is the winner of Group D and the 4th player advancing to the quarterfinals. Congratulations. That was, I think, the closest series we've had this entire weekend. What's going through your head right now?
Ну, в первую очередь, поздравляю. Ты 4-й игрок, который прошел в четвертьфинал. Очень интересный матч был. Какие твои чувства?
Я даже не знаю, я переволновался уже, когда в конце все так затянулось. Я не знал, выиграю ли я или проиграю, и это было тяжело.
Some of the matches went so long that I was afraid if I was going to win or lose, so I'm super hyped and yeah.
It was definitely a nail biter, especially after, you were at such an advantage in the early couple of games. You lost the Warlock mirror, and then it seemed like it was going downhill a little bit from there. How do you manage to stay calm in such high-pressure situations like that?
Ну, все видели, что случилось в игре. Mirror матч против Warlock'а был очень 1 в 1. В общем, что происходит сейчас в твоей голове? Как ты сумел остаться спокоен в такой ситуации?
Ну, я стараюсь всегда не терять концентрацию и играть на максимум, вот и все.
I always try to stay focused and play to the maximum ability.
Well, you certainly did that, and it went all the way to Game 5. You are now through to the quarterfinals. Is there anybody that you're hoping to play against?
Ну, раз ты уж прошел в четвертьфинал, против кого бы ты хотел сыграть дальше?
Блин, это сложный вопрос. Я не знаю, пока, возможно, против Just Sayana даже.
This is a difficult question. I cannot really say, but I would say Just Sayana, probably.
Well, taking down Just Sayana to qualify for the World Championships would certainly be an incredible feat. He's on a tear right now, but you as well are through to the quarterfinals. You've won both of your matches today, and you've earned the folks at home who chose you as their champion a minimum of 2 packs now. Is there anything you want to say to the fans who are rooting you on?
Ну, самое главное то, что ты заработал как минимум 2 колоды Hearthstone для тех игроков, которые выбрали тебя своим чемпионом. Хотел бы ты что-нибудь для них сказать?
Олды, держитесь.
Thank you for your support. I'll try to win.
Well, we're expecting big things from you, RENMEN. Congratulations. You seem like a genuinely phenomenal person and player, and can't wait to see more from you in your quarterfinal match just a couple days from now. But that's going to do it for all of the matches today. Let's head over to TJ and the analyst desk and get started with the post-show.
Thanks very much, Cora. I'm joined by my 3 amigos, Raven Sottle and the Admiral. That's admirable.
Yep.
It's time to wrap up day number 2. It's been another short day, but a day that I think was filled with a lot of great plays, a lot of full clears. Am I right, Raven?
Yep. As casters, we do enjoy a full clear of the board. So that last series was great for us overall.
As casters, we enjoy a full clear of the board. Yeah, that's the one thing I really look forward to every tournament. Lots of full clears of the board.
There's just got to be a defile here.
Yeah. It just seems like there's always a defile if you want there to be one. But at the end of day 2, let's go ahead and take a look at our quarterfinalists who we'll see playing on Sunday. All these players won their groups. Bloody Face, Just Saying, Blood Trail, and RENMEN. Sottle, right off the bat, is this what you expected?
Expected, yeah, maybe. What I hoped for, there were 3 players that I really wanted to see get through to top 8 out of the groups. Tyler, Island Cat, and Blood Trail. And I only got 1 out of those 3 so far, but of course no one's eliminated just yet, so the other 2 can make their way out.
Yeah, I think it was expected from some groups, but Bloody Face, I think, maybe the biggest surprise when looking at his group, Admirable. Even he said he kind of got the bad draw as far as group, but he made it out of his group, and I think he's probably playing one of the best, if not the best, out of all the players in the quarterfinals. Do you agree or do you not agree?
I definitely agree. I think that Bloody Face really surprised me with how well he played. You know, I knew the guy could play some Hearthstone, but actually watching it pan out, it seemed like there was a lot of counterintuitive stuff that was going on in his games, a ton of min-maxing that was very relevant to his games as well. You know, a lot of times min-maxing doesn't actually have agency on the game, but when it does, it really matters. And that's what we saw in Bloody Face's set. And it's kind of a reminder that you always need to be in tip-top shape or else you're going to get caught off guard and you're going to lose a game because of it.
I do want to mention Blood Trail in that conversation as well, though. I think it's only fair with how much, we brought up his performance last time.
It's here for a redemption story.
It was 1 game that he was redeeming himself for. That's the funny part. It was 2 games that he was redeeming himself for. That's the funny part.
But yeah, he played great today, I think.
Yeah, I agree. But let's take a look at some trends as we wrap up day number 2 in the initial matches for the group stages. Quest is best. I think this is a little, well, no, I guess it's not. They put the caveat there that it was banned 4 times in 3-0 in games. Raven, as a big fan of Quest Rogue yourself, what are your thoughts?
I think the games, or some of the games at least I saw that they won, were very, very close and did rely on some quite fortunate draws, even the one we cast today where Tyler actually managed to get that win, which was the biggest deal, because although you're saying, Quest is best, if Tyler couldn't have got that initial win, then that series would have looked very, very different, I think, going forward.
And Zoo Caged Hey, clever.
Nothing makes me happier.
Zoo Warlock combined 5-9, 36% win rate through the first 2 days. Sadal is a big fan of Zoo Warlock yourself.
Quite the
What are your
opposite,
thoughts?
TJ. Since this form of like heal package Zoo has come into the game, I have at no point been convinced that it's a good deck. It has all these insane blowout high rolly starts, but just the overall card quality in the deck is so much lower than Zoos of the past that it's always seemed suspect to me. So anytime it performs badly, I'm a happy boy.
You know, that kind of ties into the min-maxing point I was making earlier, because I have disagreed personally with a lot of the Zoo play I saw, and in watching some of the reviews that players were doing yesterday on stream, a lot of them were criticizing some of the Zoo play as well. Now, the Zoo play that wasn't criticized was the player who was winning with it, Bloodyface. He struggled in, I think, some scenarios, but for the most part, that deck is about maximizing every single spot you can get. And as soon as you misstep, it's a snowball effect where the game's outside of your control. Yeah, that's pretty much the same thing for all the aggro decks right now.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. You know, one misstep in an aggro deck can cost you a match. Why are you smiling and nodding?
Who?
Sadal was. Well, Sadal as
Sadal was smiling. That's just a flat out lie.
Never happened.
As a big fan of regions yourself, Sadal. Why don't we go ahead and break down the records by region? America started the day off pretty strong, but have struggled a little bit still on top based off percentages. But Europe catching up. China. Are you gonna pick it up, or are you just gonna let me all day?
I was just wondering how committed to the bit you were, TJ, and as always, the answer was very. Americans were very dominant on day one. Europe have really planted their flag today, and honestly, like, how many times can we go back to the well with China? Can we just replace them with West Europe next time? Just
wow. Whoa, that is way harsh. Well, you know, I said at the start of the day that there was still that lingering question of which representative from China is really going to, you know, put their flag on top of this mountain and start putting on the map. We see a lot of the consistent players make it to championships, but on the championship international stage, it just seems like the performances are not showing up.
Yeah, they still have one more day of play left in the elimination decider matches, and why don't we go ahead and take a look at those now for what we're going to be seeing tomorrow. It's basically a schedule of matches come tomorrow. We have Rivias versus Lion King in Group A, Aquamaker versus Xiaomao in Group B, and then in Groups C and D, I'm going to just wait here for a second.
Hey.
There they are. Language Hacker versus Trunks, and Island Cat versus Tincho. Any of these stand out to you? Admirable.
Trunks, my eyes on him. I think he's facing a really tough opponent. I think Language Hacker had the brunt of some pretty poor luck today, but that's the break sometimes. Right now, Language Hacker's really looking to prove something for himself, and Trunks, he's looking to prove something for himself and for China at this rate.
Yeah, that's right. And I think, you know, Raven, before you make your point, I'm just going to go ahead and talk for a really long time. No, go ahead.
I hate you sometimes, TJ. I was just going to say as well, to a certain extent, Tincho has the China effect on his own because he's currently trying to carry the South Americas completely on his own here, and he did take a loss with that full aggro lineup. He's going to be going up against Island Cat as well, so I'm interested to see how that one goes out because whoever wins one of those, there is a region that will be very happy at that point.
Yeah, and whoever wins that specific matchup, Island Cat Tincho, will then go on to play Tyler in a match that will then end up breaking my heart if Island Cat wins. If I have to watch Island Cat versus Tyler for qualification, I'm just going to go home sad at the end of the day either way.
Yeah, but Sadal, as a big fan of schedules yourself.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's go ahead and take a look at the schedule for tomorrow, Saturday, day number 3. It's the longest day. We actually have 8 matches, so we're going to play through the elimination matches and the decider matches for all 4 groups. So we're going to be live again at 8:30 a.m. Pacific. That's 5:30 Central European Standard Time, summertime.
Was that hard to work out? It says on the screen.
I'm not used to reading that time, man. Usually they give me single digits.
Is it because you're asleep by then, mostly?
Yes, it is. That's absolutely right. But day number 2 for the Fall Championships is in the books. Blood Trail and RENMEN will join. Nope. There it is. Blood Trail, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. The competition heats up tomorrow as we find out who will advance through the elimination and decider matches. 12 players are on stream tomorrow, but only 4 will make it till Sunday. Until then, well played.